Today on the show, St. Louis Rams players cause controversy with their hands up, don't shoot silent protest.
And Arizona Cardinals defensive lineman Darnell Dockett live tweets while on jury duty.
Plus, the 49ers are looking to deal Coach Harbaugh, and the Justin Bieber curse is alive and well. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's episode 31 of the Sean and Bo Show. Bo, I think I messed up last week. I called it the Sean O'Donnell Show. You gotta catch me on these things. Gotta give yourself some credit here too, man.
Man, you know, it's rough out here for a guy like myself, but 31 episodes, we have officially lasted longer than Brian Bosworth's NFL career.
That's right. Better hair, too.
Yes, way better hair.
Well, the St. Louis Rams players made some headlines with a pregame silent protest, sort of an homage to Ferguson. Several of the players left the tunnel with their hands up in a don't shoot sort of silent protest thing, Bo. I'm sure you saw the pictures.
Yes. Anyone that's alive in this country knows what's going on in Ferguson, and with the many protests that we're seeing over the holiday. You know, NFL players have an opportunity to do so many things, and we get on them when they're out there being dumb. You know, we have a whole list of things that NFL players have done that are not befitting of someone that gets paid $1 million game check and a salary that is, you know, way bigger than any normal American's ever going to see in a lifetime. Finally, somebody takes the stage and says, hey, I'm going to do something about it. Now, what was interesting to me, I feel like it kind of proved the point, because the statement from the police department afterwards shows that they just have a problem with some people stepping up against them.
Well, okay, a couple of things here. There's a few issues within this. Number one, a lot of people have been saying basically that athletes should keep their mouths shut when it comes to these sort of things. And I 100% disagree with that sentiment. Nobody made sports broadcasters the social issue take opinion czars, you know? It's like these guys are just nitwits with microphones. A lot of sports broadcasters aren't even educated.
Yep.
So, I mean, to me, they have just as much right as anybody else to voice their opinion and, you know, debate these sorts of social issues when they come to the forefront. I have no problem with them doing that. They're just as qualified as, you know, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, Colin Cowherd, you name it.
Yeah, it's not 1980. You can't go to a Division I school, Sean, play football, and be taking basket weaving. I was just telling you, you know, out before the show, I'm looking at my master's degree because I found out I had so many credits while playing college football, could have double majored. That didn't happen in the 1980s of college football in America. We actually have to go to class or you'll be kicked off the team. So when I see this, I'm like, yeah, this is what I expect from a bunch of men who maybe sit in some classes and understand the power that they are giving from their position. You are taught by your professors at real early on campus. Hey, I need you guys to pay attention. Why? Because if the football players and basketball players have their cell phones out and have conversations going on, guess what? Everybody else is going to do it. It's the power you yield, you know. Some players like Jameis Winston, when he's on campus, he doesn't use it in the right way. Every once in a while, like there's another story we're going to talk about later, A.J. McCarron's tweeting out, Alabama player, to save UAB football. He understands, people listen to me, I'm going to use that, and I like to see it.
Well, it's not just that these athletes had some experience in the classroom and took some courses and participated in the college experience. Yeah. You know, I think if we're really being real here, who knows about police interactions more than, well, let's just call a spade.
Yep.
Black athletes growing up, a lot of them in very impoverished areas. You think they have any experience with this subject? Do you think they're qualified to talk on it? I think so.
Oh, yeah. I tell you all the time, grandfather was a police chief. I'll never forget, it was one of those moments, you know, A state trooper pulls me over after dropping off a girlfriend in a very nice neighborhood in my old school Camaro back in the high school days, and got my little leather jacket on heading home, and pulls me over, and not asking me why I was going over the speed limit. He just says to me simply, "Son, what are you doing in this neighborhood at this time of night?"
Wow.
I said, "What did you say?" Because at that moment I knew I'm going to call my grandpa as soon as this is over. And sure enough, let's just say my grandfather, with his many years of service in the state of Indiana, and he also ran courses at the police academy for the state police in Indiana, he made a few phone calls, and that guy, he was in a little trouble after that statement. So yes, I know that we have dealt with it. I've dealt with it in my life. I've just been privileged enough to have family members in a position to affect it. To other young minorities who don't have a grandfather that's a police chief, they're not afforded that ability, and they experience it too much in our country.
So that said, okay, I think that athletes, regardless of the race, by the way, I just think people in general, they're perfectly qualified to speak on social issues, race issues, other things facing our country.
Yes, sir.
I don't think, just because you're an athlete disqualifies you from having an opinion. But I will say, I didn't like this silent protest one bit. And the reason why is that it doesn't advance the discussion one bit. If you want to talk about the issue at hand, Rams players, feel free. But this sort of thing just instigates people, particularly in a climate where you're seeing like rioting, arson, stuff like that. You don't really, pardon the pun, need to throw any more, fuel on the fire, so to speak here, okay? So if we're going to have a responsible discussion about this, I'm all for it. But I'm not for, things like this. Even if these players are 100% earnest in their thinking and in their protest, all this just seems like sort of a fashion statement when high-profile athletes do these little token gestures to inject themselves into the middle of these big debates facing our country. Again, have an opinion, debate the opinion, talk about it all you want, but stuff like what the Rams players did, it doesn't help the discussion.
Yeah, I agree to a certain point. The only problem is in our society, what has happened, it's sad. I heard somebody say this many months ago. They were talking about how media has so much effect on us, the news, 24/7 news cycles. Would we be able to get the things accomplished today that were accomplished in the civil rights era? And I say, now it's weird as an African American that athletes, entertainers, which most of the time end up being some actor or a rapper, have to go and get a mic and do these things. And a lot of times they're not the individual that needs to be speaking on these matters. And I wish that there was a forum where these guys there was someone that they could talk to get this out. But unfortunately, who are they going to go sit down with? Hannity and Combs, Bill O'Reilly? No. They're not going to sit down with Chris Berman. Chris Berman's not going to talk about this with them. Back. So it's like, just like you said, we end up picking these forums to do these things, whether it's a podcast, whether it's somebody wearing a T-shirt on the sideline of a nationally televised game, whatever it is. A lot of times it sends the wrong message because sometimes people just do it at the wrong time. And I understand what you're saying, but it's unfortunate that we are even at this point, and I just love sports because I think it helps us, guys like us, have this conversation and get over it a little bit quicker because we do have our sports cycle. We have Sunday coming up, and I would hope that the reason these guys felt like they had to do this, Sean, was not because they're trying to make a statement, but is because they get in $500,000 cars, probably drive past this neighborhood on the way to their mansions. And I know they feel a little guilt. I would hope that's why you would do something like that.
Well, one interesting wrinkle to this story, Bo, was you can call it an interaction between the Rams organization and the St. Louis Police Department. The association, the St. Louis Police Officers Association, demanded an apology from the Rams organization, and they issued a statement, an email from the chief of police, John Belmar, contacted the vice president of football operations, Kevin DeMoff, and he basically summed it up in the following. Again, this is the chief of police. I received a very nice call this morning from Mr. Kevin Demoff of the St. Louis Rams, who wanted to take the opportunity to apologize to our department on behalf of the Rams for the hands-up gesture that some players took the field with yesterday. Mr. Demoff clearly regretted that any members of the Rams organization would act in a way that minimized the outstanding work that police officers and departments carry out each and every day. My impression of the call was that it was heartfelt, and I assured him that I would share it with my staff. One problem. The Rams never apologized. Ooh, this looks bad.
Yes.
Rachel Nichols of ESPN shared the statement from the Rams, who characterized the interaction a bit differently. Quote, "We had positive discussions today with St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department Chief John Belmar and representatives from the St. Louis Police Officers Association, during which we expressed our respect for their concerns surrounding yesterday's game. What has transpired over the past 4 months is a tragedy that's impacted our entire community. Together, we are beginning a healing process that will require time, energy, and honest dialogue. The Rams will continue to build on what have always been strong and valued relationships with local law enforcement and the greater St. Louis community as we come together to help heal our region." Well, that doesn't sound like an apology. In fact, further clarification from Nick Wagner, quote, "At no time in any of the conversations did I apologize for the actions of our players," said Kevin Demoff. Rachel Nichols also tweeted, quote, "We did not apologize." So some mixed messages here. That just looks bad from a PR standpoint. Get your ducks in a row.
Real bad. Oh, my goodness. It's almost as bad as the Denver PD tweeting out that they really enjoyed the local sports teams, but they forgot one sports team, the Denver Nuggets. And, you know.
Yeah, what did they tweet back? Like, cold?
Yeah, cold.
That's cold.
Cold. And, you know, these things are going on right now. Everybody, you better, you're walking on those eggshells nowadays. You're speaking into a mic. You're in a public forum. You just got to watch it. You know what I operate by, Sean? If the Cowboys win, I'm happy. If the Cowboys lose, I'm sad. If you just know that about me, it's easy.
So you're feeling a little melancholy then, would you say?
I have mixed feelings because the last game was on Turkey Day, so I was a little, you know, in the, I don't know, comatose from all the food I ate. So it was kind of like a bad dream. Thursday is up on us. Cowboys, Bears, Soldier Field.
We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. But speaking of looking bad to the public, here's a guy that knows a little something all about that, Mr. Jose Canseco. Now, following him shooting his finger off while he was cleaning his gun, he broke up or got broken up with by his fiancée, girlfriend, whatever the situation was. And I guess Jose was not that heartbroken, Bo. He's already looking for love.
Yeah, he's a loose cannon.
Took to Twitter, quote, "Already tired of being single, looking to get married ASAP," followed by another tweet. Well, it was just at Shania Twain and then a shirtless bedroom picture of Jose Canseco. At Shania Twain, "Want to get married. We were supposed to meet when I played for the Blue Jays in 1998.
Wow.
Timely.
Wow.
How pathetic can you be, man?
And he's talking about a time in his life, and even that wasn't the greatest time of his life, 1998. He was kind of just bouncing around and hanging on, trying to make a dollar before he started writing books, bestsellers about things that went on in the locker room. Canseco, I just wonder about a guy like this. Ladies, be wary of a man who is, 1 week since he told the last woman he was going to kill her, threatened the mom, allegedly, and the girlfriend. He's lonely in a week, and he's already moving on. Doesn't sound like a guy you want to hedge your bet on.
Codependent.
Yeah.
Well, some big news for the NFL was that Ray Rice last week won his appeal. It was on Black Friday that the news broke. He is an unrestricted free agent. He can sign with any team. Bo and I did a little live broadcast on Friday to benefit onewarmcoat.org via Funnel Cake Sports Radio. And we were talking about where Ray Rice might end up.
Yeah, and you had something interesting, Sean. You were talking about a friend of yours brought up something that the Ravens did that kind of makes you go back and say, yeah, Ray Rice is not going back to the Ravens. What was that?
Well, yeah, I was thinking, well, how about the Ravens re-sign him? I mean, they're obviously in need. It's not like Ray Rice did anything to the players or the players did anything to Ray Rice. Why not? And one of my buddies, Jeremy, is a big Ravens fan, so I thought, well, who better to ask than my Ravens-obsessed friend? I was like, well, what do you think the chances are? You think this is a possibility? And he said, no way, 0% chance. And I said, why? He was like, oh, you don't remember? The Ravens organization did a jersey exchange, meaning people that had Ray Rice jerseys could trade them in for a different Ravens jersey. And anytime this has ever happened with any team in any sport, that player has never returned to that organization. So there you have it. He's not going back.
And then when you said that, I was just kind of like, wow, yeah, they did do that to him. That's harsh. That really is harsh. I mean, what is he going to retire as? I mean, he's obviously, I think he's had a Hall of Fame career on the border. He's on that fringe, possible Hall of Fame career. If they celebrate Ray Rice in the future, can you forget a jersey burning? They're having a hard time with it with Favre. You would think they didn't even do a jersey exchange. Fans just reacted to him going to the Vikings in a negative way. And he's having a hard time going back, standing at the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
So this, I think about these kind of things because currently, right now, I have a petty owner in Jerry Jones. I hate saying that about you, Jerry. I'd still want a job if you need a new voice of the Cowboys. He's not going to put Jimmy Johnson in the ring. That's petty. That's childish.
Yep.
That's like my dad made my sandbox. It's bigger than yours and has more Tonka trucks in it. You can't play in it, but you can stand over there and watch me. He built it. That dude.
Well, where will he retire is, I think, going to be a matter of, does he win another ring? And my thinking on the subject is that he's probably going to take less money to go to a contender. So who could that be? I think there's a couple strong possibilities. Broncos, could see that. They don't really have a history of bringing in kind of questionable people, but I think Peyton Manning has a strong enough grasp on that locker room that a Ray Rice, who, before all this happened, was lauded as a community activist and did all this other crap.
Ray Rice's problem is not with football players.
Right.
It's with domestic violence. And it's I still the Colts.
Yeah, Colts are another possibility.
That's my number one.
And I don't think you overlook the Bengals, particularly if he's mad at the Ravens organization.
Yeah.
Well, they're probably going to make the playoffs, and they're a big-time rival, so that would make sense too.
And, it'll just be fun to speculate on the nicknames that Andrew Luck will have for T. Rice. Hey, T. Rice. Way to go, T. Rice. And, that guy is one of the weirdest smart people I've ever met.
He's a dork. Now, Ray Rice and Janae Rice, of course, spoke to Matt Lauer on the Today Show, and among other revelations was the news that basically the Ravens had crafted Janae Rice's apology. That doesn't make that organization look good.
No.
Lauer said, "Did you want to be part of that press conference?" To which she responded, "I was ready to do anything that was going to help the situation." Lauer, when you say help the situation, help Ray and his career? Both. Help the way we looked in the media, help his image, help obviously his career. So, they told us early that week we would do the press conference. Lauer continues, "Did anyone at the Ravens say, Janae, it would be really good if you issue some kind of an apology?" They suggested it, yes. Lauer, did they come up with the wording? Janae, no, not specifically. They basically gave us a general script.
Wow.
That it's hard to be high and mighty on a moral ground like the Ravens tried to do in this situation when you are trying to coerce the victim into reading a, quote, general script. Shameful.
I don't even know what to say about that. I really, that's low. That, you hear stories about stuff like that in corporations that, in government, and you're like, okay, those are big, giant organizations. We can't screen every individual that runs for office, everybody that works for ExxonMobil, to know if they're sinister enough to do something like that. But the Baltimore Ravens, I'm pretty sure there's not a lot of people that work for the Baltimore Ravens. And for them to do something like that, you can totally look at them, Sean, and say that organization looks like a villain. They do. They just look like a villain to me now.
Yep.
I'll never forget that. Never.
Well, I posted something on Facebook to my friends the other day, basically to the tune of, being a Chiefs fan is constant punishment, Bo. Even when we're good, we're just good enough to be a constant disappointment.
Yeah.
And wow, that game against the Broncos, it was no good. It was bad. I was feeling like that afterwards. But the one thing that did put a smile on my face was Travis Kelce and his interesting gesture. Pantomime, I don't know what you would call it, Bo. I'm pretty sure he was demonstrating what it looks like to use one of those shake weights.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was doing. You know, it was part of the Play 60 initiative, I believe. But yeah, Travis Kelce made this gesture right when a ref was announcing a penalty for roughing the passer when Von Miller hit Alex Smith late. Totally Bush League move, by the way, there. But let some people just speculate, you know, was he doing that at the ref?
So many people hit Alex Smith that night. He would feel bad if he didn't get in on it.
41%. 41% of attempts, Alex Smith was hit.
Exactly.
Disgraceful.
I think one of the security guards hit him.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. But Travis Kelce, the tight end of the Chiefs, then took to Twitter, of course, since deleted the tweet, but he basically said that it was to Von Miller. He thought that Von Miller deserved a shot to the face. So I'm a little surprised he hasn't been fined for all this yet, but I would expect a fine to be forthcoming for Travis Kelce, probably for Von Miller as well for that cheap hit.
Yeah, that kind of stuff's interesting. I don't know. Emotion, you see it in a high school game, you see it in college. Golly, they get to fight in college, and that's so cool. Like, one of the biggest things I remember that shaped me as a youth and wanting to play college football was I was at a Kentucky-Indiana game, and they play for another trophy because every team in the Midwest and South plays for a trophy.
It's a little overdone.
Yeah,
these
everybody's
days,
got a trophy. I think it's the bourbon barrel, which Indiana, we really don't make bourbon. So technically, are we just stealing Kentucky's bourbon? I don't get it. We're not offering them any bourbon. I really don't get the premise of the whole.
You could only make bourbon in Bourbon County, Kentucky.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like champagne. It has to be made in a certain region to be literally that beverage.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just whiskey.
It'd be the corn whiskey barrel or something.
Yeah.
We can do that in Indiana. But anyway, I remember after the game, the Indiana players shouldn't have beaten Kentucky. They run over there to get the bourbon barrel, and a fight ensues. And that was awesome. And I thought it was so cool. And I still love it to this day when people stand on people's symbols in rivalry games and they get a scuffle going at the 50-yard line. But in the NFL, somebody shows a little bit of emotion, we're going to rein them in, old Sean. We don't want anybody to be different. We want everybody to wear the same socks. You know that those guys get fined if their socks slip down?
Yeah.
Like, my buddy was telling me about that. He's like, man, I am a sweaty offensive lineman. And every time some D lineman hits his sock and it slides down, instead of worrying about the next play because NFL plays are 50 words long, he's like, oh, gosh, I'm going to get fined $500 if I don't pull my sock up. That is crazy.
Well, one thing that I wish every single professional athlete did, Bo, I think this world would be a much better place. You saw this. Our man Andre Johnson. This isn't the first time he's done this either, but very cool gesture for some kids, Bo.
Yeah, Andre Claus, that's what they call him around the Houston area this time of year. This is actually the 8th year that he's done this program. Yeah. It's in conjunction with the Children and Family Services in the county that he resides in. And he takes a dozen kids that are in some of the worst situations and telling you, like, I was a social worker, and there are children this time of year, for whatever reason, they end up in the state's custody, and they're just not going to have a Christmas. They don't have family. Mom and dad could be incarcerated. You don't know, and it is one of the saddest things you've ever seen. And because a state it's a government entity, you just can't go out and say, hey, we're going to take $500 for these kids and buy them Christmas. You can't do it. He takes these kids in a Toys R Us 8th consecutive year, Sean, gives them 80 seconds and a shopping cart. $16,000 worth of toys.
That's awesome. I love
that
it.
is great.
I love that.
Could you imagine that Christmas?
I used to always fantasize about that when I was a kid watching like, what do they call it? Supermarket Sweep.
Yeah, Supermarket Sweep.
I always wanted to do that. I would always like, you know, I would just have this like game plan in my head. Like, okay, now if this opportunity ever does strike,
yes,
what items are you going to go for first? I'd like have all this strategy going on in my head for this possibility of this scenario that never happened.
It's consumerism. We are all a nation of little looters. we all fantasize about the free-for-all day when it all, like, you know, I tell people this, the show me and my wife watch, and we're just like any other American family with kids trying to make it. And everybody loves this show, The Walking Dead. And I'm like, you know why people like The Walking Dead? Because the ATM machines are off and you don't have to worry about paying your mortgage anymore. All you got to worry about is not letting a zombie bite you. That's the American dream, baby. Just loot your way through life.
Coming up on the Sean and Bo Show, it could be the most entertaining series of tweets I've ever seen in my entire life as Darnell Dockett live tweets his jury duty. Got to hear about this. Also, some controversy about the Niners coach. Yeah, Harbaugh. The Niners don't want him. Apparently, every other team in the NFL does. We'll talk about that as well. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey guys, thank you very much for listening. However you're hearing this right now, be it funnelcakesportsradio.com, iTunes, Podomatic, or YouTube, thank you so much. And we don't normally do this, but we had a special live broadcast last week. And forget the charity element of it. You have to go back and listen to this episode, if for no other reason than to hear Bo's story about playing basketball with Jay Cutler. Yeah, that Jay Cutler. Go to SeanandBoShow.podomatic.com to hear it. That's SeanandBoShow.podomatic.com.
Welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show, man. This next segment here is starting off with a funny one. If you were paying attention to Twitter today, you saw that Mr. Dockett of the Arizona Cardinals was live tweeting from, yes, jury duty, ladies and gentlemen. The man ordered a pizza. He often raved about things he had done in the past, and it was just hilarious. The judge ends up letting him go, correct?
No, we don't know.
We don't know yet. Yeah. I thought, the way I interpreted that when they were asking him the questions, he walked out. That's when he got to go.
No, It all started bright and early, 6:19 a.m., from a man whose Twitter bio reads, in part, crime pays. Darnell Dockett tweeted, "Anybody knows how long jury duty lasts?" And that's when the comedy started. He made it very clear that he did not want to be there. Quote, "The lady asked me if I want to be here. I said, hell no, I'd rather be home. But I don't believe in death penalty and I'm not racist. Can I go now?"
You sent a message over to me and said, you know, that he's doing this. And I was trying to eat my lunch. The first thing I read, I think I was mid-bite, and it says, "Oh, man, I double parked a $450,000 car outside with a registered pistol in it." I about choked. You'd have found me dead with that tweet and a smile on my face.
Here's a few more of my favorite ones. "I wonder if they know I'm tweeting. Oh, well, they shouldn't have selected me. They brung in this big-ass police officer like he gon' scare me." He goes on, "I just told this guy I'm hungry, and he's like, I can't leave." WTF, you mean I can't eat? Okay, watch this. I'm going to order pizza off this app. F you. And he just kept going and going and going. Quote, "Are they allowed to ask you questions about yourself?" Quote, "Have you ever been arrested, Mr. Dockett?" Like, I'm going to tell you, I'm asleep. And he just literally kept going, tried to make it known that he was tweeting. They took away everybody's phone. He pointed out the fact that he had two phones, so he gave him the Android and kept the iPhone and kept going. And I was just rolling all day long, just so funny. But here's a little wrinkle in this whole story that's cast a little bit of doubt in whether this was actually going down. Makes me sad to have to read this part.
Yeah.
This is an update from Deadspin. Great reporting. I have no idea how they found this out. It's come to our attention that the photo of a courtroom that Dockett tweeted is actually an old photo from a 2013 trial in Washington State. So it's entirely possible that he's making this whole thing up. Our original posts are below. Ooh. So I have a feeling we haven't heard the end of this whole situation, whether it happened or not, but this guy is just pure Twitter gold. This is the same dude that once offered Manti Te'o a trip to a strip club and the promise of a real, quote, real bad midget, if he's into that.
Oh, yeah. I thought he was a real good Twitter read. I spent some time on there, and I like his little intro there where it says, criminal, FSU, Arizona Cardinals. This kind of gave you a timeline of how he arrived at where he is now.
I'm glad we have athletes like Darnell Dockett just for entertainment's sake.
Yeah, I mean, it really is one of the only avenues where normal people make it. Like, to make it in, entertainment, and you lose a little bit of yourself. I think that a 25-year-old male guy, fresh off the farm, went to college, played 3-4 years, he really doesn't change a lot. And that's why we get these things, and they seem so outlandish because let's be honest with ourselves, people. Anybody else that talks to us on TV, they've been groomed for that their whole life, and they know how to act. These athletes, they're just happy somebody put a mic in front of them.
Now, here's a story that's been making some local headlines here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Bo, but, well, we know our listeners aren't all from Albuquerque and probably don't give a rat's ass about the University of New Mexico, so we'll relate it to a broader national scale. But that is the iconic Pit, the basketball arena here for the Lobos, got themselves one of those corporate sponsors for the naming rights.
And if you don't know what it is, Jimmy Valvano, it's where he won his championship.
Yeah.
Where you see him running around.
If you've ever seen that footage of him running around, he doesn't even know who to hug.
Yeah.
That's from the Pit.
They
used to host a lot of NCAA tournament games there. It's a great venue. It's exciting. It's loud. It's just not really big enough by today's standards to continue hosting big-time NCAA tournament games. But notwithstanding, the stadium, formerly known as the University Arena, is now the Wise Pies Arena, a.k.a. the Pit. What the hell is a Wise Pies? I ask myself the same damn question, and I live here.
Yeah.
It's a small chain, a pizza chain, obviously, that has 3 locations in Albuquerque. So the terms of this were $5 million for 10 years, okay?
Well, see, this is what I found out. There's like Vernon Steakhouse and all these other local eateries that they also own. And that I was just, my wife's in the food industry. I'm asking her about this. She said, Bo, these people here in the next year will be everywhere from here to Denver over to Phoenix.
Well, here's the shrewd move on the part of these business owners. Mm-hmm. Okay, so like I said, 10 years for $5 million. However, you know what they're paying the first 2 years of this deal? $100,000. So that gives themselves a little wiggle room to develop some more business to finance this whole thing, because it just was not clear to me how a small pizza chain in Albuquerque could afford this big thing, but it all makes sense now.
Yeah, they're working together, and it highlights an issue that a lot of people around the country talk about. We sit here and we wait for these polls to be dropped with our new college football playoff. Yes, it's great. It's about time we got there. But there's just a group of young men that are being forgotten about. And it's the University of New Mexico, which I played at. It's all the universities in between that gave us the Brian Urlacher's of the world. If you look at the NFL alumni list, people, you will be thrown away. You'll just be like, I thought everybody went to Ohio State and Alabama. No, it's not that way. A lot of times, what is it? UC Humaniora and DeMarcus Ware, I might have to look that one up, but I think that's correct. Both played high school football in Birmingham, Alabama. DeMarcus Ware was often quoted saying that you could throw a rock from his high school field and hit the stadium in Tuscaloosa, but none of them were recruited. They're both Hall of Famers, people. One went to Troy, and where did UC go? I cannot remember that one right now. I will come back with that. But what I'm getting at highlights something that's going on currently, and that's UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham.
See ya.
No more football. Gone. They had a financial expert come in. He looked at finances with the athletic department, just like many Division I and Division I AA schools are doing across the country, and they're finding out that by losing out on not being able to compete on this scale and the power conferences coming together, remember, people, Conference USAs, the Mid-American conferences, the Mountain West conferences, they lost their Utahs, their BYUs, their
the
TCUs.
moneymakers. Yeah.
Those guys are all gone. We used to split millions with them. Now, you're going to start seeing programs fall left and right. This is only the beginning. I have a friend, he's an offensive line coach at Indiana State. He has told me time and time again, Bo, I don't see how we survive in the next decade. That scares me because football, athletics, they brought opportunity. And if you think the only people worthy of getting scholarships are those that can play on TV, you're missing the whole idea of amateur athletics in college. It's about an education and an opportunity. And, you know, Sean, I say to people, if you keep knocking out the football program, people forget a football program can fund a women's swim team, a water polo club.
Yeah, they fund all the other sports.
Man.
It's either basketball or football that's going to fund all the Olympic sports at universities around the country. It's
gone.
And it doesn't matter if we're talking about an Alabama or UNM, same thing everywhere. Those big-time sports programs, whatever it happens to be for your university, that's paying for everything else.
Yeah, and I think it's just going to ruin the quality of football. You'll have kids standing on the sideline like right now. I think it's funny that people are amazed that Urban Meyer can go 4 deep on his quarterback chart and still win the Big Ten championship. Last time I checked, that's still Ohio State, and that's still Urban Meyer. Every kid in America wants to go play for him. But what's ruined is now I think when I was coming out, Sean, you could go to a Troy. You could go to UAB. You were going to be on TV just as much as the kids on Ohio State and get just as much opportunity to go to the NFL. But now I see kids standing on the sideline at universities like Ohio State and Alabama, and I'm like, man, why don't you just go down the road to Troy? You'll be an All-American.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes sense. But, you know, this whole naming rights, corporate sponsorship thing, it kind of made me think about what the future holds for NFL teams because all but 6 NFL teams have corporate stadium rights. Those 6 teams that don't: Arrowhead Stadium, the Georgia Dome, Lambeau Field, Paul Brown Stadium, Ralph Wilson Stadium, and Soldier Field. Those are the exceptions to the rule. So to those fan bases, I would be curious, how big of a deal is it? You know, if you can pay for, say, stadium renovations or whatever it happens to be, and I think it's, you know, it makes a lot more sense for college teams because you know that money is going to trickle itself back into the athletic department or the university itself. But with these pro teams, that money's not necessarily going to—
That's family money.
Yeah, it's not going to improve the quality of the play on the field.
Yeah.
So I wonder how these fan bases would react to a name change.
Well, don't you know Buffy's Rolls Royce needs oil changes? That's expensive, Sean. So Gillette Stadium's coming at you soon. You know, naming rights makes sense on some levels, and I'll give you an example. In Indiana, you have Lucas Oil.
Right.
Now, Indiana, we are racing through and through. And with the Lucas Oil family being from English, Indiana, right down the road, it made sense because they're always renting out these domes to do what? Put motocross in them and all that stuff to promote their product. So those things make total sense to me because if you're going to rent it out to have car shows and let people do backflips on dirt bikes, you got to do that, right? But, like, I'm still – Wise Pies Arenas, like that example, or what is it? It used to be Pac Bell, and then it was AT&T out there with San Francisco. You know, it doesn't make sense to me to the fan bases that go. If you want to talk about fan bases that don't go to their games and don't fill up the stadiums, punish them. Name that thing Twinkies Hostess Cupcake Stadium for 20 years. I don't care. But you should never do that to the fans of Lambeau. Never. You should never do that to them. That's their stadium.
And that I bet will be the last bastion because, as you know, Bo, there isn't an owner of the Packers. It's fan-owned. So I could almost guarantee you Lambeau Field will stay Lambeau Field. But the whole thing sort of got me thinking about some of the goofiest, just bad names, like Wise Pies Arena. across the country, and I have a handful of them here, Bo. The Phoenix Coyotes play in the jobbing.com arena. Not a good name. How about the Pelicans of New Orleans? The Smoothie King Center.
Wow.
Intimidating stuff. But by far and away, the worst two, and it's a toss-up. You can tell me which one you think is worse. The Sacramento Kings play in the exciting Sleep Train Arena. And then the University of Louisville, the KFC Yum Center.
Yes.
You wanna play in the KFC Yum Center?
I know all about the KFC Yum Center. Yes, that one, that takes the cake. Yes, that is classic. Talking about chicken.
Now, the news broke this week that the 49ers are apparently looking to trade their coach. Yeah, Coach Harbaugh for draft picks. And I don't know how you feel about this, Bo. This makes zero sense to me. I mean, I get it. The guy's kind of a hard ass. A lot of young players don't like that. But look at the results. I mean, the guy has enough built-up equity that he's allowed to have a bad year. Look at what the 49ers were before Harbaugh came around for those 3 or 4 years before that.
Yeah.
Bad. So now you have, it seems like every single team that has any kind of coaching controversy looking at Harbaugh. The Jets, where we might see him. You know, it just, what do you make of this? Why?
You know, it's a shame that, I don't know if it's human nature that I think it starts at a young age where you're going to do everything the opposite of your parents. And you look at the NFL as an organization, and if it was a family, the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Patriots, these organizations could be your big brother. But recently, the Dallas Cowboys organization developed a meth habit and started drinking a lot, and you can't trust them anymore, so don't do anything that they do.
It's nothing new for Jerry.
But the Steelers, they're still the trusty old big brother. You can look at them and say longevity with coaches. They bring players back. You know, Dick LeBeau is a fixture with the defense, and you're like, if I inherited an NFL team or got $1 trillion tomorrow, I'm going to go get every Steelers book and read it and say, this is how I'm running my organization because it's worked. Yet, Sean, we look at the Niners and the Cowboys and the Raiders and the list goes on, and you're like, what are you guys looking at? What drum are you marching to? They don't do anything that those guys do.
Do you think they'll actually let Harbaugh go, or do you think this is all smokescreen?
Yeah, a guy like Harbaugh, I tell you, I try to, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing because it's probably why I lose coaching jobs, but I try to be like Harbaugh. As a young man, I met him in Indianapolis, and he really influenced me. I thought it was really cool that even when he was talking to a bunch of elementary school kids, he was so serious, you know? Like you meet other NFL stars or other greats, and you can just tell they're like, whatever, a bunch of kids. This guy was like, if I can talk to these kids for 30 seconds, they're going to be better for it. And I respected that about Harbaugh, and I imagine that's what he demands from these players who make millions of dollars. So I would be offended if I brought success to your organization. You're talking behind my back. I have your daughter tweeting things out about my offensive coordinator. These guys, man, if you coach any type of sport, you eat more with these guys in that room than you do with your own kids. You got calendars up on the wall so you can remind each other, hey, man, your daughter's birthday is tomorrow, because you don't want to be like Calipari, or was that Calipari that did that?
Yeah.
And tweet your daughter's birthday out on the wrong day. You know, that's how serious coaching is. I believe Harbaugh's gone. I won't be lucky enough to get him because Garrett's actually shown that he has a pulse this year. So he's not going to be in Big D. You have Andy Reid, and your future's looking pretty good. You just need to get an offensive line.
Yeah.
He's not going back to college. I think that ship sailed for me, too. I don't believe that one bit. I just don't believe. You said it earlier about Harbaugh having people looking over his shoulder with those alumni. He's having a hard time dealing with one GM right now. So I don't think he's taking on a whole board of trustees and stuff. So it's going to be interesting, man. Jets fans, if there's anybody in America that can go to bed thinking Jim Harbaugh could be wearing their colors, I think it's the Jets fans.
It would make sense. I mean, kind of seems like Ryan's out the door. That whole organization needs to kind of tear down and start over. So he might be the perfect guy for the Jets organization. But we'll see where he ends up. If he
could you just see this scenario though? Like, what do the Jets have? I know he's old and he's not running a 4-4 anymore, but they have a read option quarterback with a strong arm that's got. And with Mike Vick, this is the way Mike Vick's at this stage in his career where you don't talk about years left, you talk about games. Like, this guy's got 19 games.
By the way, did you hear Tirico the other night say, "Wow, Mike Vick almost got injured while on the sidelines"? Damn, Mike, that's cold, man. Well, I wonder where they manufacture Dockers. That could be a lucrative little endorsement there. If you could send him some free Dockers, you can probably talk him into the job. But yeah, I can't see a replacement out there that's going to be better for the 49ers than who they got. It makes zero sense.
Maybe that's what it is, wearing Dockers in Levi Stadium. It's just not going over well.
There you go.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Buy some Levi's.
Now, Bo, you noticed a couple of funny things about Jameis Winston and his code of conduct hearing.
All right, this is too funny. Jameis Winston, as you may or may not know, he is at the mercy.
Loves crab legs.
Yeah, loves crab legs and yelling things out about women on campus. But right now, it's not really a laughing matter for him anymore. If this guy was joking his way through these situations because he thought he was just a Heisman quarterback that could get away with murder, it's serious.
Not get away with murder, Bo. Close.
It was close to that. But no, so he's in front of Judge Harding. He's a retired Florida Supreme Court judge. And, he's going to look at Jameis Winston's case to see if he violated any of the Florida State Student Code of Conduct policy, which I'm going to let you guys in on a little. This is what gets a lot of brothers on a football team. I've seen a lot of people go. Like, the coaches make you do it. You sit in meetings. They're like, here's the NCAA code of conduct. And the most important one, the one that lawyers can't get you around, is the one at your university.
The one that you're about to agree to.
Yes, that one. And it's strict. And let's be honest, he's embarrassed a lot of people. And this is what takes the cake. So if you watch college football, Virginia, Florida State, they're a rival. I mean, it goes back to the mid-'90s when the Twins played for the Barber boys, the Barber twins, when they took down Florida State, when they had Bobby Bowden and they're like #1 in the country. Well, they started in 1995 playing for the Jefferson Epps Trophy. And the judge is a graduate of the University of Virginia.
Oh, God.
So I often wonder, because I don't know, there's sometimes in my life rivalries, they do come back. People say things and they rub you the wrong way. And I just wonder if I'm a guy that goes to the University of Virginia, it's pretty conservative, a lot of smart people. You get beat in a series that Florida State has beat you by 56-0 in. They've beat you 48-0. I looked these all up. And the record of this series is 14 wins Florida State, 3 wins Virginia. Does that come into your mind when you're weighing on letting go of their Heisman quarterback?
Justice is blind, bro. How dare you?
Yeah, right.
Hey, by the way, didn't our boy Darnell Dockett go to FSU?
Yes, sir.
I don't think the code of conduct was as strict back then.
No, that's why I like a Darnell Dockett, because there's just some of us that know how to have a good time, but when midnight hits, no more fireworks, put all the pistols away, turn the music down from busting eardrums to about 35, because this is when brothers get in trouble. That's why Darnell Dockett is still doing what he's doing, and Jameis Winston's getting made fun of by Kevin Hart.
Coming up right here on the Sean and Bo Show, the Bieber curse is alive and well. Not only that, Doc Rivers puts Bo's Cowboys on blast. All that plus college football playoff rankings and NFL picks. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show.
Hello, everybody. This is Bo of the Sean and Bo Show. Just reminding all of you loyal listeners out there, like I do each and every week, pleading with you, please share the show with a friend, coworker, family member. But what I'm asking of you this week is just go a little bit above and beyond and click that share button on Facebook. You already know how to check us out, and we appreciate it. Number 41 in sports and recreation downloads on SeanandBoShow.podomatic.com. That's SeanandBoShow.podomatic.com. And yes, we're still on YouTube, and yes, we are on Twitter, but we need you to share us out there on Facebook. That's SeanandBoShow.podomatic.com.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show. Bo, the Justin Bieber curse, it's real and it's alive.
Yes.
Who was it? It started out with the Steelers?
Yeah, it cost me money, actually. They got beat by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, started the downward spiral of my picks of the season. Like, that was like my first silly loss. And here we are again, Justin Bieber strikes. Now, last time, as you remember, I gave a little rendition of what went down with some song because Justin Bieber didn't just hang out with the Steelers in a regular way. He hung out during Bible study.
Got the whole world.
Yes, you remember. Now, this time, Bieber wasn't necessarily in the mood for some Bible study, which I have to ask, is Bible study only a Saturday night thing when you're in Pittsburgh? Or when you're in LA on a Saturday night, nobody. I'm trying to figure this out. But anyway,
he's a good Canadian kid. Leave him alone.
Maybe their Bible study schedule's different than ours.
It's different in Canada.
Yeah, I forgot
up
about
is
that.
down is up.
But anyway, he's at the LA Clippers game, and people are starting to say what I was saying 3 months ago, Sean, that the tides are turning in LA, and there's more celebrities going to Clippers games and wearing Clippers jerseys than going to Lakers games these days. So Doc Rivers allows Bieber to come into the locker room after the big victory. He's palling around, taking pictures, and guess who walks in next? Gronk and a few of the Pats. So it's a party now. There's like $180 million in salaries in this room.
What the hell is Gronk doing in Los Angeles?
Well, don't you know they play the San Diego Chargers, and Belichick didn't want to travel back to the East Coast with the weather.
Oh,
he wanted to stay and work. Yeah.
That's
so
right.
Doc Rivers, great coach. I love Doc Rivers, but he took a shot, took a jab at his Doc. He's a Chicago Bears fan, which after Thursday, I'll have a few words for Doc Rivers.
Yeah, you better hope so.
Says to his players, which a majority of them in the room, you think like a Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, growing up where they grew up, they're Cowboys fans. So he says to the guys, hey, I want you guys to meet a real football team, and in walks the Patriots.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Now, was that called for? Did you really need to do that?
Just reminding you.
Yeah. Anyway, last time I checked, we're about to go into the 9-win category this week. Where are you guys at?
You go into the 9-win category almost every year, but you don't leave that category.
No,
That's
it's
the problem.
the 8-win category we get stuck in. We're going to the 9, baby.
You better hope you don't start winning 9 games every year. You're never going to get rid of your coach.
Well, you know, Doc Rivers is taking shots at the Cowboys. Sean's taking shots at the Cowboys.
It's a
Thanksgiving morning.
National pursuit of sorts.
Who else? I was mad at everybody. Strahan took a shot at Tony Romo on Thanksgiving morning. I was all excited, and there he is, as if he didn't get enough shots on us while he played.
Oh, by the way, before you go on, I have a picture of Romo getting sacked. The way the light's coming into the stadium, it's just beautiful. I figured I'd print it out. We could get you a frame.
I don't want that anywhere near my house. I've had enough of those memories. I'm trying to get back to my boyhood days when we had Super Bowl trophies and Jimmy Johnson's hair still looked natural. Now, I see Jimmy Johnson on Fox. The hair's a little bit stiffer. He's not coaching the Cowboys, and we don't win Super Bowls. Something needs to change. I don't even think we're supposed to be talking about the Cowboys right now, so you'd better stop me because I can just go on all day right now.
Well, Doc Rivers just made it clear that he wanted his players to see what a real franchise in the NFL looked like. I mean, he's trying to bring winners in.
Yeah, he'd be lucky if Tony Romo, Jason Witten, Des Bryant, DeMarco Murray came walking through his locker room
Romo's
door.
back is not good enough to sit through an entire basketball game, Bo. Come on.
Yeah. At least he's not getting hit as much as A. Smith.
All right, we'll get to that. Now, this happened today. Big surprise to absolutely no one. Michigan canned Brady Hoke. We were talking about Harbaugh earlier. I don't see it happening either. Who do they go after?
Okay, so I literally sat in a dark room for at least 45 minutes today trying to come up with a list of possible candidates for the Michigan Wolverines job. And I'm like, Well, Bo Schembechler released a statement, the family, saying that when he said they should get a Michigan man, I think you guys took that a little bit too literal and went out and got a Michigan man. What he meant was a man that's stern and, all that good stuff.
Oh, not a man from Michigan, per se.
So I'm glad they cleared that up. Maybe Michigan could win the Big Ten again. I think, though, there's something going on, and I always forget about this guy until he's standing up there on a podium. And I want to tell you, Sean, this is the reason I coach football, because if this guy could make $1 million calling plays, I can make $1 million calling plays. And that's your man down at good old Alabama, offensive coordinator Lane the Train Kiffin.
God, haven't teams learned their lesson about Kiffin by now?
I am telling you straight up and down, you do not go down to the SEC, do what he did with an offense that was already successful. People were saying, what in the heck can you do with the Alabama offense? It's won championships. He made it more successful. People say that the whole deal with him and Saban is that kind of coach's cartel, bringing him in like, hey, I'm Nick Saban, buddy. I'll get you a job.
By the way, I love how Saban yells at all of his coaches the same way he yells at his players. Like he is not pulled and punches, man. He lets them have it.
Saban, give me $50,000 a year. You can punch me in the face every time they do something bad. Because if I work for the University of Alabama for one semester, I can coach football anywhere in this country. I swear. Yeah, I know why they let them yell at them, because they're all thinking about what color Maserati they're going to order when they get their job in a few years. Dude, it's one of those things where you understand, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because if I work hard to achieve something and my son looks at me one day and says, Dad, I want to coach football, I'd hope that I'd have enough friends to get him a job. It's not wrong. It's what the kid grew up around. He was on the Raiders sidelines. He wants to coach football. But what has happened is he's went two places and he's blamed it on everybody else but himself. The one thing I look for in a coach is don't talk about anybody else, just take ownership and move on. And then you have Warren Sapp coming out and saying things about Lane and his experience with him as a coach at the Raiders. But I'm telling you, Sean, I have this feeling in my gut. He's going to say something corny. He's going to be standing up there at the Maize and Blue podium in like 4 days. It'll be Lane the Train Kiffin.
Well, it wouldn't shock anybody if he just up and left a job. I think he's got a little track record of that.
Yep.
All right, well, since we're on college football, let's talk about the college football playoff rankings that came out earlier this evening, Bo. What was interesting to me was the criteria that they said that they will use for these rankings, that they said that they would take injuries into account. So when I'm watching football on Saturday with my buddies after Notre Dame just gets shellacked, my friend is saying, oh, God, Ohio State's going to jump TCU. And I say, no, they're not, because they don't have a quarterback anymore. So what struck you about the latest college football playoff rankings?
Well, I don't think there's any love for finishing undefeated. To me, that's why the Herb Streets of the world and anybody who's a football player or football coach knows how hard it is to win, period. Now, let's go win when you've been anointed champion, and it is the hardest thing. You're like, okay, this is the only way. I've never been on teams that were just undefeated every year and people wanted to beat us. But
we know you played for UNM.
I played for UNM, and my high school wasn't that great. But the only experience I have with it is in rivalry games. If you ever played in a rivalry game and your rival was a school that was way worse than your school, you would watch them on film in weeks leading up to the game, and you're like, man, these guys are bad. They don't stay home. You got guys jumping off sides, the miscommunications on the routes and the reads, and then they play you, and they put together 85 plays of the crispest offense they've ran all year, Sean. And I just think that there's no love for Florida State, and I don't think that they will treat an SEC team the same way in the future. If Alabama was undefeated, they'd have no problem being number one. No problem putting them number one. But they are just looking at the ACC and not looking at Florida State and their body of work.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. It's like, and I would totally agree with you there. It's truly like this committee isn't just looking at what you did this year. I mean, it's the same as it ever was, just like the AP poll and the coaches poll. It's about reputation. It's about what have you done these last couple of years. So I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, and moving forward, I just don't see it being this way much longer. It's whenever things are brand new like this. I mean, there could still be some computer out there that's going to take this over in 4 years. We don't know. The committee could be gone because right now people want transparency. They want to know what's going on inside there. I don't care if it's government, it's a business, or it's just a bunch of people trying to decide who's going to a playoff. And right now, we don't know anything.
I think Dan Patrick had the best idea yet. You make the whole thing a reality show. So we see Condoleezza Rice debating her picks. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would give you the transparency, and that would also make the actual selection show for the rankings pure entertainment. Man.
Highest rated television show.
Oh, it'd be it would be. It would be huge.
It would be ridiculous. Like
they're not going to do that, of course, because they don't want to pull the curtain. But
I don't know. I think like there's this like a computer program out there that just takes media, like me and you talking on a podcast, Dan Patrick and his national TV shows saying what he says, and they're like, the rhetoric of America right now is screaming for a television show based on the playoff selection committee.
It would be awesome.
It would just happen out of the blue. Like, oh, cool. They must have been listening to us.
All right. Well, on to the professional game. We return to our winning ways, and by we, I mean me. I went 10-6 in my picks last week. If I hadn't made a couple of bonehead reaches in my picks, I would have done better. Bo, how did you do?
You know, I'm not disappointed. I'm 8-8. That means I picked 8 winners.
You know who that reminds me of? Going 8-8. All right, on to this week's picks. It's a full slate of games. As you know, there's no buys this time of year, so we have a bunch of games to pick. So we're going to roll through this kind of quickly. Starting off with Thursday, we have Bo's Cowboys traveling to Chicago. Spreading that game, Dallas by 3.5. I'm going to throw them a bone, ladies and gentlemen. Fine, I'll pick your Cowboys.
Yeah, you got to pick the Cowboys in that one. The Chicago Bears is a debacle. There's nothing else that needs to be said, and the Cowboys it's playoff
Doesn't
time.
that strike you as a team that's just on the precipice of a really bad 4 or 5 more years? Like I kind of think the Bears are they're gonna be the Bucks for a couple of years here until they get stuff straightened out.
Yeah, Jay Cutler will forever just be the guy that had a laser arm, a reality show wife, and he made a few cameos, but never quite did anything in the game that he played.
On to Sunday's games. The first early game, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Man, Pittsburgh let me down. I thought they would beat New Orleans at home. So I've got no faith in them away at Cincinnati. The spread, Cincinnati by 3. I would take that, and I would take the Bengals for the win.
Take Pittsburgh.
Why?
They're not going to put together 2 bad games in a row like that. And if you look at the Saints game, they really could have won either way. Cincinnati doesn't do anything either that makes me impressed.
The only thing that worries me there is I don't know how much Cincinnati really has to play for. You know what I mean? I think if they win half their games, they're still the top seed there. So it could be sort of an apathetic game for them. I still think they get it done. Next early game, St. Louis at Washington. This is obvious to everyone. This should be a part of your parlay. Washington sucks. Take the Rams.
Yep. St. Louis, Trey Mason out of Auburn is having the career we all expected him to after he busted on the scene last year in those last few games in the national championship run that Auburn made after they upset Alabama. This guy's career, it's like, I hope that it's a long one. Did you see that game that he had where he finally emerged?
Yep.
It was nice because I think everybody needs to have that game against the Raiders except the Chiefs, where they get a lot of confidence.
Man, you thought you were going to slip that in there, huh? All right, next game. No spread in this game. It's a straight pick 'em, so pick it we shall. Giants at Tennessee. I picked the Giants last week. They won. I'm going to say they put up a little streak here. 2 games. Go for the Giants.
Oh, man, this is hard. Because the Giants are just bad.
They're not as bad as Washington. They're not as bad as a lot of teams.
They're not. They could have beat Dallas a game. They really could have. but they just do things. I got to pick them. I have no faith in this pick. If I would gamble on it. Would you gamble on this game?
No, absolutely not.
No.
So you're picking them?
Yeah, put it on paper. I'll sign my name.
Okay, next game, Carolina at New Orleans. Like I mentioned, New Orleans coming off that road victory at Pittsburgh. We also know they tend to play pretty good at home. They're trying to salvage their season. The spread is a big one. New Orleans by 9.5. That's too big of a spread, but I would take them to win the game. Give me the Saints.
Yeah, Ron Rivera fast on his way to joining Brady Hoke and Bo Pelini and every other coach on that fishing trip they're going to take when they're looking for jobs. But the wheels are off in Carolina. You have to pick against them the rest of the year.
Next game, it's also an early game, Jets at Minnesota. This one's tough. I wonder, I think that Ryan losing his job at this point is a foregone conclusion, but the players really do like him from all reports. So even though they have really nothing to play for this year, does the locker room rally and get the guy a win? Maybe, but I'm still going to pick the Minnesota Vikings to win this game, Bo.
Yeah, go with the Vikings. Their special teams last week, goodness. If you can get that kind of special teams production, or I don't know if that was a sign of just a team that didn't have good special teams that they were going against, or if there's something that they're trying to do in Minnesota. Are they going to be that team that beats you that way with a balanced run attack? Well, with Teddy Bridgewater, we're going to see. But definitely have to pick Minnesota in that game.
This one I'm going against the chalk, Bo. Baltimore at Miami. Spread, Miami by 3. No. Ravens win this game.
Always take the Ravens in this one. That defense, you've seen what the Jets were able to do getting in Tannehill's face. What are the Suggs going to do?
Or as Luck would call him,
T-Sizzle.
Hey, T-Sizzle, nice hit, bro. All right. Rolling on at the early games, we have Indianapolis at Cleveland. Bo has a Johnny Manziel poster in his bedroom. He picks them every week, so I'm picking Indianapolis.
Oh, man. This is going to be a clobbering, I believe. I think that Luck in that pass attack, they're just going to ride out the rest of the year like that. You got to go with Andrew Luck.
Next game, Tampa Bay travels to Detroit. Another big spread, 9.5 points. I would probably take that spread in this game. Give me the Lions.
Take Detroit. Defense is way too good. Interceptions, a lot of picks in that if you're looking for a fantasy defense.
Final early game features Houston at Jacksonville. As we discussed, Jacksonville is still Jacksonville. Houston rolls. Watt cements his MVP caliber season, scores like 2 more touchdowns. Houston wins big.
Houston.
See, you're smart. You're listening to me this week. On to the rest of the afternoon games here. This one should be an interesting game. Should be highly entertaining. I think we're going to get it here locally. Buffalo at Denver. Spreading that one. Wow, am I reading this right? Denver by 10. No way in hell am I touching that spread with a 10-foot pole, but I do think the Broncos get it done. Who you got?
Yeah, that's simple. Way too much production going on over there on that offense. Nobody can beat them. Gosh, seeing what they did to the Chiefs, and Chiefs are a way better team.
Well, I don't say this very often, but don't listen to me because I have to. I'm morally obligated to pick Kansas City over Arizona. I don't want to hear it, Bo.
This is going to be fun. My neighbor, he's actually got the family all loaded up. They're heading over to that game. So it's going to be kind of cool. Told him to send me some nice pictures and stuff. But you Chiefs fans, get your hopes up every week only to be let down by one problem that you guys have to fix.
I wish we just had one problem.
No, because Sean, I'll be honest with you, football fan to another football fan, your wide receiver running back situation really no different than Dallas's. The only problem is your quarterback can't stand back there without getting murdered. He gets murdered every week.
Yeah, I know. But in fairness, our cornerbacks are terrible.
Yeah.
Every single Manning completion, the receiver was wide open by about 5 yards.
And my big thing hang up on with defense, though, is you guys have defense where you need it. If you guys need a sack, you need pressure, you got that. And that's important. teams give up a lot of points in the NFL. They give them up left and right nowadays. Even the teams that are touted as the best defenses in the league, I look at the score and I'm like, he's give up 28 points. That's not defense, but that's the new standard of defense in the NFL. I think you guys just need to fix the offensive line. That's why I have to go against you in this game.
There's no fixing it, though. You got to get new linemen.
That's it.
There's
So that means
there's nothing schematic.
that's the difference between the Cowboys and the Chiefs. We fixed our offensive line. We're just trying to take care of little issues, communication, those kind of things.
Broken backs, just small things. Seattle at Philadelphia. Bo, check out the spread in this game. Check out the spread. Mark Sanchez and the Eagles by 1 against the defending Super Bowl champs?
No.
I don't know what to think. I have a feeling how you're going to pick this game, so I'm going to try to get myself another point in the win column here. Give me the Eagles.
You know what the problem is they're trying to think back, I believe that was San Diego, when they lit up Richard Sherman with the small, shifty receivers and all that, and they think that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't buy into it one bit. Give me Seattle. Marshawn Lynch is going to have a field day on this defense.
Final afternoon game. Wow, this one's really tough to pick. San Francisco at Oakland, a rivalry game. Yeah, give me the Niners. Take the 8 points even.
Really?
I know you love the Raiders. I know you do. I told you last week they're not going to win another game this season.
I just believe they partied a little too hard. They're not used to winning like most teams. But, the Niners, I don't have faith in them.
No, they're not good, but they're not terrible like the Raiders.
I'll take the Niners.
That's what I thought. All right. For your primetime game, this one will be good. New England travels to San Diego. Interesting spread. I would have predicted this would have gone the other way. New England favored on the road, 3.5 points. Geez, that's an enticing bet, I think, to a lot of people.
Bieber curse.
Yeah, I'll say this. If you're going to bet the points, take San Diego. But if you're picking who's going to win the game like we are right now, the Patriots.
Gronk runs wild. He's out there hanging out with Bieber. Got himself a little SoCal sun. Probably went and got some nice clothes. The man's feeling good about himself this week.
I think partying and alcohol fuels Gronk.
Yeah.
I don't think he's like normal players. I think that makes him better.
That's the problem with all of the players, Sean, is that something like that fuels them. It's the reason why Herm Edwards and men of that are like, hey, when it's 2 a.m., go home, because he knows what fuels all those players. I like New England. They're just going to crush them.
And your Monday nighter. Oh, man. Atlanta bit me in the ass last week when I called them one of the worst teams in the NFL, but they're certainly not better than Green Bay, right? Right? Give me the Packers.
I'm just going to put it out there like this. When I look at Atlanta, looks like a lot of people that enjoy the region. Looks like a team of guys that were raised in the South, born and bred to play that game in the South. They're going to go up there and get off that bus because last week, Sean, Mike Ditka said it was cold.
Oh, God.
If Mike Ditka says it's cold, because keep this in mind, people, the man lives in Chicago. Ditka says it's cold up there in Green Bay. So Atlanta freezes up, gets beat 65-0.
That's bold. Well, there you have it, folks. Enjoy the money that we're making you on these picks. If you're listening to me and not Bo.
Send me something for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. That's going to do it for the show this week. I'm Sean O'Donnell along with my co-host Bo Greer, reminding you, tip your pizza man.
See you next week.